Welcome to the Scottsdale Planning Commission public hearing. The city encourages your interest and participation in the public hearing process. The Planning Commission is an advisory board to the City Council on land use and zoning matters. The meeting agenda items are development applications that require public hearings. The Planning Commission considers a request and makes a recommendation for approval or denial to the City Council. The City Council makes the final decision for or against approval of the application. The agenda consists of the roll call, minutes approval of the prior meeting. Continuances are for items that will not be heard tonight. Withdrawals are for items that have been withdrawn from any further consideration. Consent agendas for items not likely to require a presentation or discussion. All items on the consent agenda may be voted on together. Any commissioner may move any item from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. The regular agenda is where each item includes a presentation and recommendation by staff, a presentation by the applicant, and public testimony. After, the applicant will have the opportunity to respond to the public testimony. The Planning Commission then discusses the case and votes. Non-action is for items for discussion. No vote will be made by the Planning Commission. Citizens wishing to speak on any agenda item may fill out a blue speaker card, or if not willing to speak, may fill out a yellow comment card and turn it into the staff table before the agenda item is to be discussed. The chair will call you by name when it is your turn to speak. When called, come to the podium, state your name and address, and then begin speaking. Groups wishing to speak should elect a spokesperson to represent the views of the group. To facilitate the meeting, your comment will be limited to 3 minutes for individual speakers, 1 additional minute for each additional individual present at the meeting who has contributed their time to a representative speaker, up to 10 minutes. Please format your speech to be accommodated within the applicable time frame given. For convenience in timing presentations, a light system is installed on the podium. The light will be green for 2 minutes and yellow for 1 minute. Please conclude your comments when the red light appears. Thank you for your interest in time. Now we'll begin the meeting with the roll call.
Chair Higgs.
Present.
Vice Chair Young.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner Kaminsky.
Here.
Commissioner Ertel.
Here.
Commissioner Scarborough.
Here.
Commissioner Serena.
Here.
All here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment. This is for general public comment for non-agenda items. I don't believe we have any yellow cards that have been submitted. Great. Okay. And now we'll move on to the administrative report. Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. First, I just wanted to thank you for your devotion to get the public's business done on Valentine's Day. So thank you again for that. And our next meeting will be February 28th. We do have an agenda item scheduled for that. So we do plan on being back here on February 28th. Well, that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the approval of the regular meeting minutes for the January 24th meeting.
Chair Higgs, I move to approve the January 24th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as written.
Second.
I didn't catch who that. Oh, thank you. So we have a motion from Vice Chair Young, and we have a second from Commissioner Scarborough. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Higgs.
Yes.
Vice Chair Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Kaminsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Ertel.
Yes.
Commissioner Scarborough.
Yes.
Commissioner Serena.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to be moving on to the action items. Starting with continuances, we have a request by the applicant for the 2 Axon cases, 3GP 2023 and 13ZN 2020 number 2, to be continued at a date to be determined. While I don't believe we have a request to hear the case again, we would like to have the applicant speak as to the reason for the request to continue again.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. We're here tonight requesting this continuance because we need some additional time to work through some of the items that were raised at the last hearing, and accordingly, we request this continuance to a date to be determined.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Kaminsky.
Thank you. At the last hearing, I had offered that maybe more time would be necessary to prepare, and you guys were pretty insistent that you be heard at this hearing. I'm a little concerned about doing this to a date to be determined because we did have a lot of members of the public at that meeting. They were told that they were going to be hearing this case tonight. Now we're asking for another continuance. I would feel more comfortable if we had a date specific for continuing this item.
Commissioner Kaminsky.
If I, there are a lot of moving parts to this, and a date to be determined may be something that actually fits all these moving parts, as opposed to a date certain where that date can't be met. So you're going to, if you know what I'm saying, there are a lot of things that are going on in this case. So I would suggest that you stay with the date to be determined, as there are a lot of legal negotiations that still need to occur with the applicant's team.
Yeah, may I have a question? So so some of the pieces of the application I know that were still pending last time, I think about water and traffic seemed to be one of the larger two issues for the majority of the commission. But when you talk about the legal aspects of that, it sounded like they had already, to what Commissioner Kaminsky was saying, they had already kind of indicated that they were prepared to deliver that almost like immediately after the meeting. So is it to perpetuity? I guess I kind of would piggyback on what Commissioner Kaminsky is saying is, do we have a date if they had expressed that they would have it ready by this meeting, but now there's not even a date that we can even discuss? We're just going to kind of continue to let it roll to some future date that we don't know, but they had an application that was approved by staff and recommended for approval 2 weeks ago.
So Chair and members of the commission, just for the record, speaker was Lauren Preber-Potter on behalf of the applicant team. The concern about a date certain would be that we may be further misleading folks about when it will be heard if it's not ready, and then if it's to a date certain, and then we get to that date, and then we have to continue it again. People get confused, the public gets confused. So given the fact that there are some moving pieces, understand that there was a recommendation before you a couple weeks ago for approval, that the concerns that were raised by the commission, I guess, helps the public as well as this application, I guess, tighten up in terms of some of the specifics that we're still working through. This is a zoning case, and some zoning cases have more specificity than others, and the Planning Commission was clear 3 weeks ago that we need a little bit more specificity for this type of project. And so rolling up our sleeves, getting back to the drawing board on that has made it clear that the 3-week continuance wasn't enough and we need more time. The applicant team needs more time, and we need to review it, make sure everybody's comfortable with what the changes will be, or at least the clarifications will be. And again, if we do a certain date, the staff couldn't recommend a certain date at this point. And so if we just pick one out of the air in hopes that it'll be done for clarity, I think there's a high likelihood with these moving pieces that we would be continuing it again. So that's the concern about a date certain. So again, I think the staff's recommending, along with what the applicant's requesting, is a date to be determined, and then we'll advertise it and let everybody know that things have been worked out to the best of the ability in terms of providing the clarification of those items, and now it's ready for the Planning Commission.
Commissioner Kaminsky?
Can I ask, I know that there was a phase 1 that they did not have building permits submitted. Has that been initiated yet? Are we starting phase 1 construction?
So as of this moment, Chair and Commissioner Kaminsky, that hasn't been started yet, and I know that trying to figure out the timing of all of this is maybe part of the complication of perhaps some of the deal points that the applicant team is working through, and maybe Ms. Potter could clarify that for you
But
in
I
terms
guess-
of the timing.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out, are we looking at 1 month? Are we looking at 9 months? Are we kicking the can down the road on phase 1 that it's not going to start until this second phase gets heard? I just, some parameters, date to be determined is very broad, so.
Commissioner Kaminsky, at this time, it's a little bit too early to figure out how it's all going to shake down in terms of the timeline, because there are likely to be modifications to this portion of the application that would impact in-progress building permits for Phase 1.
Commissioner Ertel.
Thank you, Chair. I believe last time you needed to continue to work with ADOT and with Scottsdale Transportation and with Scottsdale Water. Has anything happened? Have you made any progress? Submitted additional materials and entered new negotiations or expanded negotiations?
Commissioner Ertel, we have continued to have ongoing conversations with your staff and ADOT, both your staff in transportation as well as in water, to resolve some of the issues that were raised at the last hearing. Nothing formal has been submitted yet. We're still studying some of the potential solutions. Then
last time, I believe Mr. Kirshner said it would take him a couple of weeks. Can we commit now to how long it would take, once they get the materials in? And also speaking for water as well as transportation and ADOT, I guess.
Yeah, Chair Higgs and Commissioner Tell, no, we cannot. The quality of the information that comes in has a lot to do with, what the turnaround is in terms of the review, and we may be able to turn something around, but we as a city may not be comfortable with what was submitted still, and therefore we would make some responses, and then those would be addressed. And also the ADOT is a wild card in terms of their timing of reviewing some of the details.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scarborough.
Thank you, Chair Higgs. I'm in favor of allowing the applicant to have whatever time they need. As I see it, and I know I do development as a day job myself, they just want to be able to put the application forth that's best for the city and best for the applicant, and it's to their best interest to get it back to us as soon as possible. The financial ramifications for any developer is huge the longer a project sits in application form or at the city. So for me, I am very supportive of a date to be determined, because their intent is not to drag this out for 9 or 12 months. It's to get back to us as soon as possible. So that's where I sit. I'm in favor of the continuance, so I'll just let everybody else speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Scarborough. I understand that, and that thank you for that clarification. That's helpful to look through that lens. I'm in prior conversations, I think some of it is just trying to get a little bit more information, because there was so much public interest in the case, to see whatever else we can find out during this meeting today. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you. I'm sorry, for clarification, I didn't get your name.
Yes, Commissioner Gonzalez, thank you. For the record, Lauren Proper Potter, would you like my address as well? I'll give it to you. It's P.O. Box 1833, Tempe, Arizona 85280.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for asking.
May I ask you, is there any issues that may have to go to the state before you come back to any kind of presentation? Is there any qualifications that this state is asking you to do, or something that you think that you might have to do before you come back to planning?
Commissioner Gonzalez, I don't think that we have any outstanding issues with the state. Of course, we continue to work with the state, particularly with ADOT, but there aren't any challenges that have been identified that we need to work through that would prevent us from moving forward, although we continue to have conversations and keep them in the loop.
Okay, thank you. Then, in that case, if no other commissioner has any questions or anything, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue the cases 3GP 2023 and 13ZN 2022 number 2 to a date to be determined.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gonzalez and a second from Commissioner Ertel. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Higgs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaminsky,
No.
Commissioner Ertel,
Yes.
Commissioner Scarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Serena.
No.
Motion passes 5-2. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Proper Potter. Okay, now we're moving on to the consent agenda. We have 2 consent agenda items for this evening. Agenda item number 4 is 9AB 2023 Story Rock Phase 3 Abandonment, and then number 5 is 12ZN 2020 Quail Crest Estates. I don't believe we have, we don't have any recusals, and I don't believe we have a request to move consent agenda item number 4 to the regular agenda, but I do believe we now have a request to move agenda item number 5 to the regular agenda. Chris, okay, so with that, can I get a motion for the approval of consent agenda number 4, 9AB 2023?
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda for item 4, number 9AB 2023 Story Rock Phase 3 Abandonment, finding that the proposed abandonment is consistent and conforms with the adopted general plan, and make a recommendation to City Council for approval of this per staff recommended stipulations, and finding that the proposed zoning map amendment, that's for the other one. Sorry.
Thank you. You did great. Thank you, Commissioner Kaminsky. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Vice Chair Young. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Higgs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaminsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Ertel,
Yes.
Commissioner Scarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Serena.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we will move on to the regular agenda, which is the item number 5, 12ZN 2020, with a presentation from Mr. Jesse Murillo.
Good evening, Chair Higgs and members of the commission. Again, Jesus Murillo, planner here with the city. And today I'll be presenting in front of you case 12ZN 2020, also known as Quail Crest Estates. I'll just use this screen. Oh, perfect. Here we go. So the request in front of you tonight is divided up into 2 parts. The first one is an actual zoning request. And what I mean by actual zoning request, it's an application that gets assigned a zoning designation because the base zoning is requested to change from one designation to another. The ESL ordinance also has built within it a mechanism to be able to increase density up to 20% if the same amount of natural area open space is dedicated along with that application. That usually gets a zoning case number, but it's not a zoning case in that it is written by right, and again by right, meaning without a zoning case in the environmentally sensitive lands application. And so both of those were rolled up into this one ZN, since normally that's what the NAOS density incentive would receive in regards to just the request itself. So the site is generally located north of East Jomax Road and along on the east side of North 132nd Street. And this is a closer look at the site. As you can see, the site is located in between East Redwood Road and East Quail Track Road, in between North 132nd Street and 134th Street. You can see there is an old Jeep trail that runs through, and then there's a significant wash located along the southern boundary of the property. So the site, so this is an aerial zoning map of what exists today. As you can see, today exists R170 for 16.7 acres, and that's the portion that will be included in the NAOS density incentive request, but is not being included in the rezoning. What's included in the rezoning is the 3.3 acres that you see there in the southwest corner, and that is currently zoned R1130, with R1130 located to the south and to the west, and to the north, and also to the east. The area that you see there that is zoned R170 received approval through a previous case, which we'll get to. So this is just a cleaner map of showing you what's existing. Today we have R1130 ESL located on the 3.3 acres in the southwest side, with R170 for the remaining 16.7 acres. The request is to rezone those 3.3 acres to the R170 zoning to match the existing R170 for the remainder of that site. As you can see, the request for natural area, the NAOS density incentive will be for the entire 20 acres, and that is if the commission so chooses to recommend approval for the 3.3 acres. The site is located here towards the bottom of the graphic. As you can see, the graphic identifies the area being located as rural neighborhoods, and rural neighborhoods works with both densities approved with the R170, with the R1130, and also with the NAOS density incentive. The site is also located within the Dynamite Foothills area. We'll zoom in a little to that. So as you can see here in the lower right-hand corner, it is located within this dashed line, which is the Dynamite Foothills Character Area Plan. The Character Area Plan discusses such items as open space and how things should be laid out on the site, and the slopes that construction should occur or not occur on. Back in 2017, or right towards the end of actually December of 2016, the City Council approved the site plan that you see today. That is the site plan that is tied with the 16.7 acres. And as you can see, there were 9 lots that were approved on that area. This is a graphic that is being proposed to you today. So if rezoned, this is what the proposed site plan would look like. As you can see, the applicant has dashed in the 3.3 acres that would be located within that site. This was the natural area open space that was dedicated, again, with that same case. And this is the natural area open space that is being proposed with the rezoning. So this is a little busy, but I'll try to get through it in a hopefully not confusing way. So again, currently it's vacant lands, which has 2 zonings on it, the R170 and the R1130. The proposed use is the 12-lot subdivision that you saw in the previous graphic. So in essence, the request includes all 20 acres for both the rezoning and the NAOS density incentive. So building height allowed is 24 feet. That's what they're proposing. When it comes to the open space, by ordinance, the site is required to provide 6.14 acres of natural area open space. The math for the 20% increase for the 20% request and an increase in density is 1.23 acres. Typically, when someone provides a final plat with the Development Review Board and with City Council approval, there is a justification for amended development standards. Usually that's an increase in natural area open space as well. So the applicant has identified that through the zoning, because that will include the amended development standards as well. So there's 1.23 acres of NAOS being proposed for the NAOS density incentive, and 0.71 acres being proposed as justification for the amended development standards. So right now, the density allowed, if you were to average the 2 zoning that exist, would be the 0.43 dwelling units per acre. The density allowed specifically for right now for R1130 is the 0.31 dwelling units per acre. And the zoning and the ordinance currently allows the 0.55 dwelling units per acre for the existing R170. So as you can see here, if the site were to be rezoned but did not have the NAOS density incentive, that would average to a 0.51 dwelling units per acre. If the commission so chooses to recommend approval for the NAOS density incentive, that would increase the dwelling units per acre to 0.66 for the entire site, and that's including the agreeing to the R170 zoning and the NAOS density incentive, and currently the project is proposing 0.60 dwelling units per acre. These are the amended development standards. I do apologize. I think because they were the same, I didn't include the other box, but I'll get to that right now. So currently for R170, not existing, but normal R170, these are the development standards that you would be required to provide. For the required R130, for those 3.3 acres, this is what you'd be required to provide. But again, in this instance, the 16.7 acres that has been approved by council, these are the standards that they currently have to meet. And so if the commission so chose to recommend approval for the additional 3.3 acres to be rezoned to R170 and the NAOS density incentive, it would be the same amended development standards for the entire 20 acres. So that's where I should have had one more column in there. So as far as other boards and commissions, again, the City Council back in 2017 approved the associated 16.7 acres for the development standard you just saw. And so, again, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find that the proposed zoning district map amendment, density and incentive are consistent and conform with the adopted general plan. That concludes staff's presentation, and we are here for any questions or comments. I believe the applicant has the presentation as well.
Thank you, Mr. Murillo. Hang on, just in case there's any questions for staff, if you don't mind. Did anyone have any questions for Mr. Murillo?
Yes, thank you very much. You clarified all my concerns and everything, so I appreciate you speaking up and just maybe I just didn't get it. But now I do. I understand a little bit more, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff?
Motion?
Oh, do we need to hear from the applicant, or you would like to hear from the applicant?
I'd like to just hear from the applicant a little bit, if
Okay.
we could, just basically his outline.
Okay, thank you.
All right. My name is Keith Nichter. I'm with Kibley Horn, 1001 West Southern Avenue, 85210. As Jesus mentioned, I'm the applicant for this project. Been working in this area for a long time. I know Jesus really got into the weeds and probably had your brain spin a little bit. I know there's probably some dinner reservations, so I'm going to avoid all that, and I'll just kind of give you some big picture color as to why we are requesting this, as well as a little context of the site. Jesus mentioned the general plan for the area is the 1 dwelling unit per acre. Our owner here, our client, has been a landowner in this area for a long time. They understand the sensitivity to the surrounding developments, and from the beginning has always been wanting to be respectful of the surrounding zoning. Understanding that this area is kind of one of the last areas to be developed in Scottsdale, and it's a unique area because it's a portion of the city that has no utilities currently. So right now there's no water or sewer, and so any development that comes in this area, there's a heavy lift associated with it. So like any private development, there's a decision to make as you kind of balance the ask or the density that you're asking for it in balance with the associated infrastructure. That being said, there has been some approvals in the area that have been recently approved that kind of give some context to the area. Riata Ranch is a large 220-acre development along Rio Verde that was approved for 330 lots at 1.5 dwelling units per acre. Fiesta Ranch was a more recent approval for almost 1 dwelling unit per acre, kind of maximizing what's allowed in the general plan. The rest of our site, trying to go to the next one here. There we go. The rest of our site is in with that 1 dwelling unit per acre, which kind of coincides with the zoning in the area. You'll see some Maricopa County zoning to the east. That's R1, RU43, which allows 1 dwelling unit per acre. Before this area was annexed in, it was said to be R1 130, but it was brought in as R1 130 with the general plan designation of 1 dwelling unit per acre. So we were kind of left with the decision of where do we fall. We understood that there is a lot of R130 and R170 development in this area. We wanted to be consistent with that, so we thought it was appropriate that the R170 would be a good fit for this area. There's been recent approvals in this area with the Braun 20 acres to our northwest that did a density instead of to allow 13 lots. The Preserve Ranch is a community that's going to be under development here soon. That is the R170. So with ours, kind of bringing it back in, when we first developed it for the 17 acres, that 3 acres was not available. When it became available, we wanted to bring it back into the community to kind of create a full subdivision. And so that opportunity allowed us to bring this back through. And again, what we're trying to do is create a development that's consistent with the area, but there's a lot of infrastructure associated with this proposal. Currently, water exists in Rio Verde, way west of 128th Street there at 122nd. That'll be brought to 128th Street. We'll be basically responsible to bring it to our site. So it's a heavy lift from that perspective. We've been involved in the neighborhood for a long time, talking with the neighbors, trying to not only get utilities to this area, but also understand what they feel was a good fit. Everyone's been supportive. We've never had any opposition. They're actually excited because there's going to be some improvements to this area. Water will be brought to the area. The reason this case has taken so long to get to us is we've been working with the city to also bring sewer to the area. So the neighbors have been pretty excited for that. Again, I'll avoid the specifics as far as the development standards and all that, the density, but just all in all, the development as proposed fits within the context of the area. We've had neighbor support from the beginning, and ultimately I think it's a good fit, balancing the heavy lift of infrastructure as well as the existing context. So with that said, I'll avoid all the other details and be available for any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Nichter. We don't have any requests from the public to speak, so it's just down to any questions remaining with the commissioners. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you. So they're going to bring sewer to your development?
Yeah, you may be familiar. There's 20 acres to the north of this that was recently approved a few weeks back. So that project, along with this one, are both required to bring water and sewer forward to this area. So,
did you get a commitment on that?
So we have been working in the background, and we have it stipulated that we will be connecting in to one of the nearby developments and have a path forward that we're going to be conditioned to.
Okay. Then just out of curiosity, this is not a zoning question, this is just a straight development question. How many feet do you have to dedicate out to bringing in this?
It's about a mile, yeah, 3,000 feet.
Okay, well then, and if you got the commitment from the city, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, sir, for clearing that up for me.
Yes.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Chair Higgs, I'll make a recommendation to City Council for approval of case 12ZN 2020 per the staff recommended stipulations, and finding that the proposed zoning district map amendment and density incentive are consistent and conform with the adopted general plan.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Vice Chair Young and a second.
I second the motion.
And a second from Commissioner Gonzalez. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Higgs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaminsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Urteil,
Yes.
Commissioner Scarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Serena.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless there's any other final comments or questions from commissioners or Mr. Curtis, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
A motion for Vice Chair Young. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you. Have a great evening.